Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today's video is going to be another match reaction. This time it's to Leeds beating Tottenham. Tottenham 3-1 at Elland Road.
Comes for Pablo Hernandez, and Pablo Hernandez scores a goal for Leeds United! Oh!
So, obviously, fantastic result against one of the big six, one of the Super League teams. But jokes aside, we were fantastic today. We were absolutely brilliant. Spurs were off it, but we could have scored more than we did. First of all, though, let's get into how we lined up. We lined up exactly the same as we did against Brighton. So it proves that it wasn't just from players like Calvin Phillips and Rafinha missing, because they only came on really late on in this game. We started with the exact same team, Koch playing that holding role. He's getting better at that week by week. He's fantastic in there. It's a bit like when we asked Ben White to step out of there and play it in the Championship at the end of last season. His first game, he was a bit sort of wobbly, a bit sideways and backwards. But as he's progressed, both Ben White and Koch have done the same thing. And they seem to be able to receive the ball on the half turn and play forward a lot more, which has been really good to see. So maybe it's not as vital to get a Calvin back up in this summer, because Koch can do that job very well, and he's shown that. He's big, he's physical, and he's got great feet. So yeah, that's promising. So like I say, we started with the same team, and the difference was unbelievable to the way we started against Brighton. The first sort of 10 minutes of this game, it was more even. It was quite cagey. There wasn't many chances really created, but after that, it just really started to open up, and it was quite an end-to-end game, to be honest. I say first 10 minutes was cagey, but now I've just had a look at what I'd noticed from the game. Harrison played Bamford in that first 6 minutes. I think it was on the 6th minute. Harrison slid Bamford in on the left-hand side of the box, and he tried to shoot across the keeper, much as he did against Southampton when he scored that goal, if you remember. It was a similar position, but Lloris got down, saved it wide, very good. Then we had a corner, and I think it was in the 8th minute. We whipped one in, and I think Harrison sort of nodded it back to Struijk after the bounce, or maybe Harrison took the corner. Someone nodded it back to Struijk after the bounce, and he sort of volleyed it over the bar. I think Dyer was coming out to him, and he sort of sliced it over the bar. So yeah, even the first 10 minutes we had a couple of chances. In the 12th minute came our first goal by the Cookstown Cafu. We had Harrison down the right-hand side on Aurier, and I think that was a bit of a theme of today. Aurier was being isolated by Harrison and Alioski doubling up on him. This time it was just Harrison. He did a few step-overs, went down the line and whipped it into that corridor of uncertainty between the defenders and the keeper. Eric Dyer was in a great position to clear it. He could have just cleared it, but he left it. Don't really know why. He had Bamford on his left shoulder, so maybe he thought if he left it would go to the keeper, but he didn't give a shout or anything. So it came to Reguilon. Reguilon didn't really have a chance to react, and he sort of just passed it back towards Lloris, but Lloris had to dive and flick it up to Dallas because he was the only player there, and Dallas just smashed it into the roof of the net. So yeah, it was a bit of a strange one defensively, but you're always going to cause problems like that, putting a ball into that cliched corridor of uncertainty, but you can't ask for much more than that for a cross from Harrison. It took about 17 minutes for Spurs to have their first proper shot, and it was Dele Alli. He was put into the box, and from a good little bit of interplay by Spurs, to be honest, they actually got on the ball a little bit. It took them ages to get into this game from that point of view, but when they did, the Leeds defenders were just there to block, and they played really well, the defence today, yet again. So they were fantastic. Alioski I want to pick out before I forget, because obviously he had a terrible game last week, but today he was fantastic. He was up and down. He was creating that overlap with Harrison, as I mentioned, and he was also back within 10 seconds of doing that, and he was making tackles, he was getting in their faces, he was annoying them, he was winning the ball, and he made some really vital tackles as well. So I just wanted to mention that before I forget. In the 24th minute, Son equalised after Dele Alli slipped him in. It was one of those where it was really against the run of play, but we could have defended it better. Dele Alli's driving through the midfield with the ball, and I think it was Llorente was sort of backing off, trying to mark the runner, and there wasn't really much chance that with the man marking system, Dele Alli had already bypassed his runner, so nobody had gone out to him to try and stop him playing the pass. So he sort of took it and played it through a gap that was created by Harry Kane making a run across the back of the defence. So obviously with the man marking system, that brought another one of the Leeds runners with him. So Harry Kane and a runner go across the defence like that. But that opens a space up here where Dele Alli slips the ball through the back line like that, and round the other side, Son gets it and slips it past Meslier. So it was a good goal. It was well worked, but it could have been defended better, and I think it was avoidable. Given what happened with the rest of the game, though, it was really a bit of an anomaly. Really, the way we played, they've just got some real quality in the players that they've got. They've got probably the best striker in Europe, maybe barring Lewandowski, but they can create those individual moments of brilliance, and we know that from the first time we played them. In the 31st minute, after one or two more chances for Leeds, Kane was actually slipped in behind and did a little dink over Meslier, so it would have put it 2-1, but VAR ruled it offside because it was absolutely miles off. No, it was another one of those VAR calls. If it had been called for Leeds, I'd have been absolutely fuming. It was like a midgie's dick offside. It was ridiculous. But that's the thing with VAR. As much as we hate it and we can complain about how stupid marginal decisions like that are, when it goes for your team, you're always going to be happy about it, aren't you? I actually think when I looked at the way they'd paused it, there was motion blur on the players for a start, so you can't track it pixel by pixel. Apparently, in the actual VAR hub, they can see thinner lines and in more detail than what we actually see on our TV feed. But when there's motion blur and stuff, and you're doing it pixel by pixel, how can you count that? It's like millimeters in it. It's ridiculous, but we know that hopefully they'll change the rule to clear daylight or something like always used to be next season, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Leeds were just sustaining pressure after that all the way up until half time. From the 24th minute all the way to half time, we were just sustaining pressure more and more and more, and I was thinking that we were just going to go in at half time 1-1 because it seemed like it was going that way, because we were having quite a lot of chances and nothing was really coming our way. But we scored again just before half-time. The 41st minute, it's that overlap we're talking about, and I think it was very much a game plan from Bielsa. I think he'd watched what Spurs had done against Sheffield United, and what they'd done is they'd played Kane up top, Bale on the right wing, Son on the left wing, and Dele Alli in behind. But it wasn't a formation or an instruction where Bale and Son would track back with their fullbacks, because with Sheffield United, the fullbacks aren't as dangerous. They're sort of less likely to be in the final third, really. But with Leeds, it's very much a feature of our game for Ayling and Alioski to be overlapping their wingers. So that was what transpired, really. Dallas had the ball on the edge of the box. I think it was Højbjerg came in and fouled him, but he sort of fell and managed to pass it to Roberts. Roberts passes it to Harrison, and Harrison is just sort of standing there with Aurier, like trying to face him up, but Alioski just goes flying past him. No, Bale's miles away, nowhere to be seen. So Harrison just slides it into Alioski, who takes it just to the sort of edge of the box by the touchline, and he just squares it across. Nice little cut back, and Bamford just gets in front of his man and kicks it in. And yeah, I don't know if it's tactical naivety from Ryan Mason, given his age and given his experience, or whether Gareth Bale is just lazy, but it was suggested by Glenn Hoddle that that might be a reason why Gareth Bale hasn't featured as much this season as you would have maybe expected him to, is because he doesn't track back. And I tend to agree with that a little bit, especially with Mourinho's style of play. You want every player to be tracking back and tracking their runners and making sure that no overlaps and 2-on-1s like that are created, because it does create a dangerous situation. And really, we exploited that with that goal. So we went in at half-time, 2-1 up, which really, that gave us the momentum. It could have been 2-2 if Kane's goal had gone in, but even so, that would have still been against the run of play and would have felt a little bit unfortunate for us, really, because of how well we were actually playing. They weren't that good, and it wouldn't have really reflected the way the first half went. I know that's not always how football works, but I think there was a little bit of, not justice, but you know what I mean. The scoreline at halftime reflected the actual game. We just started the second half how we started the first half, to be honest. We carried on dominating possession, creating chances. Harry Kane had a chance early into the second half where he was on the edge of the box and he dragged it wide, but it was a bit of a nothing chance. It was a bit of a pop shot. I know he's good and he's fantastic, but I wouldn't have expected Meslier to be beaten by there unless it was something exceptional. We had multiple more chances. Honestly, it's already 12 minutes long, this video, and I can't mention them all, but we had so many chances. We had ones that were cut back to Click that he whipped across the goalkeeper. Lloris saved well. Lloris really kept the score down for them today. It could have been 5 or 6-1, really. We just created so much more than them, and we were back to our normal selves. And like I said at the start, this was really mostly the team that had played last week against Brighton that were dismal. So to go out and play like this is just proving that we had a bit of an off day that day, to be honest. But yeah, Rafinha did come on, returning from his injured spell that I think was inflicted by that stupid Fernandinho tackle on him. So he came on for Roberts. Roberts had an okay game, but there were a few times where he was a bit sloppy, and I think he might have been nursing an injury towards the end of his time on the pitch. So Rafinha came on. He wasn't amazing. He did get an assist. He wasn't amazing, but he's only just coming back from injury, but he did provide that little bit of spark that was helpful. You always feel like he's going to do something. Just after that, Ryan Mason made 2 changes for Spurs. 2 of their front 4 came off, so Lamela came on for Ali and Mora came on for Bale. So they were obviously trying to freshen it up a little bit, trying to get a bit of invention in there. Didn't really come to much. Mora and Alioski had a bit of a battle in there, with Mora flicking out an arm, trying to get Alioski off him, hit him in the face. A little bit of a to and fro, but nothing really serious. But them 2 were really sort of unable to affect the game. Lamela had 1 shot where he was slid in on a bit of an overload in our box, but it was sort of on a too tight angle across Meslier. Meslier saves with his legs, and it went out for a throw-in. Their only other sort of really good goal-scoring opportunity in that half was the one where Aurier had it on the right-hand side and he took on Rafinha. Rafinha just sticks out a leg. He's not a defender, so it's forgivable that he wouldn't beat somebody in a one-on-one defensively. But then Aurier gets to a sort of crossing position, and I think he does mean to cross it, but it deflects off Alioski and it looks like it's flying in the top corner, and Meslier dives across and just tips it over. It was a class save, properly good, to not be that much involved in the action, and then to be able to spring into action like that and dive and tip it over the bar was really good from Meslier. Shortly after that, Kane hit the bar from that free kick, but like the commentary team said, he didn't go the side that the wall was, he went the goalkeeper's side, and I think Meslier would have had it covered if it was on target. But I was listening to Ben Foster the other day on I think it was the James Alcott channel, and he was just saying that he knows his angles so well as a goalkeeper that he can tell you if it's hitting the bar or if it's going wide or if it's going in. So perhaps Meslier just sort of put an arm out just in case, but apparently goalkeepers know their angles so well that they can say, yeah, that's hitting the bar, I can tell that's not going in. Well, I'd like to believe that Melee would have saved that. In the 78th minute, Bamford came off for Rodrigo. You could say it worked because Rodrigo scored, but in my book, I think I would have taken Click off because Bamford had been playing well. He'd been dropping deep, getting on the ball, good feet, good interplay, good passing, and then making his runs off the shoulder like he likes to do. I think Bamford had a good game. The reason I would have took Click off for Rodrigo is that Click, although he'd had a good first half and good most of the second half, he'd started to play a few sloppy passes and maybe tire out a bit. So maybe that's why I would have put Rodrigo on for a little bit more creativity in midfield. But as it transpired, he brought him on for Bamford. So Cockey's driving through from midfield on the halfway line. He plays a ball into Rafinha. There's questions whether it's offside, but Rafinha takes a good touch out of his feet. So it's coming to him, and he just takes quite a heavy touch because he knows there's nothing in front of him, but it gives him something to run onto. You can obviously run quicker without the ball than with the ball. So he's running towards the box. It's Rafinha here and Rodrigo here with Eric Dyer in the middle of them. Eric Dyer, it's not his fault. There's not really much he can do. He can only sort of block the crossing option, and then if Rafinha does go for the shot, he has to then quickly close him as much as possible. But Rafinha sort of fakes to shoot, plays it into the path of Rodrigo, and Rodrigo just first time smashes it in the corner. Nothing Lloris could do about it, and that was 3-1. But fantastic. I think a good point, and actually a good bit of like punditry around Leeds, is that Jake Humphrey was saying, although I know people question a bit some of the things that he says, but he said that every time a question has been asked of Leeds this season, they'll burn out. We haven't burnt out. They're too bad defensively. They concede too many goals. We've completely tidied that up. These sorts of things, we're just answering every question because we're now unbeaten at home against the top six this season. We haven't been beaten. We've made them all drop points at home. We've beaten Man City, we've beaten Tottenham, and we've drew with Liverpool, Manchester United, and Chelsea. And that's all in the last few weeks and months. So absolutely class, really. It's brilliant to see that looking forward. We've finally got all of our defensive options are finally fit and can play, so that is why we've improved massively, as well as Bielsa obviously having a look at the problems, identifying them and fixing them. But yeah, usually I pick a player or an issue or something that was good from that game, but to be honest, it's hard to pick anything out. They picked Harrison as their man of the match. That's totally understandable. He was fantastic. Left foot, right foot, taking men on, coming short for the ball, interplay, having shots. He was really, really good today. You could have made a case for Alioski, like I said earlier, with some of the tackles he was making. He was really good. Striking Llorente, making good challenges in there. Robin Koch really stepping up to the mark and playing that role in midfield. Dallas as well, he was very good. His delivery was on point. Bamford scored a goal and played well. I honestly can't decide this week. I think it was such a good team performance that it's going to be the team this week. They were all fantastic and really, really good result. If we can win our last 3 games, 9 points, we can finish on 59 points, which before the season, that would have been absolutely brilliant. You wouldn't have thought of that, really. I think, to be honest, to one of my mates, after we'd only played a few games this season, I think I predicted 50 points. We're now on 50 points, so that's not too bad. I will actually, this time, because I hadn't started the channel at the start of the season, this summer I'll be doing some prediction videos on where we're going to finish, where everybody else is going to finish, transfers videos. So there will be a lot of videos coming up in the summer. I got a mystery football shirt the other week, so thinking of doing some of them and seeing what shirts I get and specifying definitely not Scum or Galatasaray or Bayern Munich. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I know it's a long one, but the game was absolutely end to end and there was so much action to cover. I thought we were brilliant today, creating those overloads on the left and on the right, really exploiting their lack of willingness to track back for their forward players. I thought we were absolutely fantastic today and really, really deserved the 3 points. But thanks for watching. I'll see you after the Burnley game, if I'm right in thinking that's the next one. But yeah, fantastic result, and on to the next one. Hopefully we can beat Burnley.